This video is brought to you by Mubi, a curated online cinema streaming exceptional films from around the globe. Get your first month for free at mubi.com/storytellers. What does it mean to be a warrior in the modern age? This, I believe, is the central question of the 1970 movie Patton. On the surface, this biographical film captures the main events in General George S. Patton's life during the Second World War. From his first victories in the North Africa campaign, all the way to his extraordinary exploits during the Normandy breakout and the Battle of the Bulge. But it's also a film that cannot be viewed separately from the time of its appearance. The depiction of this idiosyncratic, larger-than-life commander struggling not only against the Nazi armies, but also having to deal with the seemingly nonsensical and complex political realities of modern warfare in many ways parallels the reality of a country then forced to deal with the disillusioning quagmire that was the unpopular war in Vietnam. In essence, Patton spoke to a deep-seated longing for a renewal of self-confidence and a return to the romantic simplicity of a general and of a country venturing out to fight the good fight against those demonic forces that seek to destroy all that is good and well in the world. And it's here that we find what I believe to be the central pattern of the movie. At its core, Patton is a swan song, a final hurrah of the archetypal warrior at the very end of an era, the last joke of a holy fool to set the world straight. One last moment of glory before its inevitable fading into the memory of a distant past. In this video, we will take a closer look at how Patton narratively explores these notions, and we'll conclude by examining how the story may help us reach a deeper understanding of the nature of masculinity and the psychological state of our modern-day world. Before we begin, however, let me state that this is not an analysis that deals with the historical accuracy of the film. This is purely an examination of the fictional narrative of the movie and will therefore make no claims to the historical validity of the sequence of events, nor to the portrayal of the various historical figures featured. With that out of the way, let's start our analysis in North Africa, in 1943. Somewhere in the desert wasteland of Tunisia, the green newly arrived American army finds itself in a state of disarray. Having come out of their baptism by fire at the Battle of Kasserine Pass with its nose bloodied, demoralization has taken a hold over the troops. Having quite literally been caught with their pants down and exposed to their nakedness, the American Expeditionary Force is now staring at the jaws of death and defeat. In essence, this army is lacking in what psychoanalysts and mythologists Robert Moore and Douglas Gillette call the archetypal warrior energy. According to these Jungians, the warrior energy is an integral part of our psychological masculine makeup, which will inevitably manifest itself in one way or the other. The person who embodies the warrior in his fullness engages life with proper aggressiveness, energy, and motivation, which pushes him to take decisive action, to go on the offensive, and to move out of a defensive or holding position about life's tasks and problems. The warrior is always alert, he's never sleeping through life, and knows how to adapt himself to the circumstances on the ground, aware of his capacities and limitations in any given situation. Most of all, the warrior energy is concerned with skill, power, and accuracy, with control and self-discipline, both inner and outer, psychological and physical. In complete contrast to these positive characteristics, the American army in Tunisia has seemingly dropped any sense of control and discipline, lounging about without clear leadership and a complete absence of any sense of forward aggression and purpose.
They don't look like soldiers, they don't act like soldiers. Why should they be expected to fight like soldiers?
You're absolutely right. The discipline's pretty poor.
Having identified the illness, Allied command sees but one man who could provide the cure and flip this army back on its feet.
Patton?
Possibly.
God help us.
We're not just going to shoot the bastards. We're going to cut out their living guts and use them to grease the treads of our tanks. We're going to murder those lousy Hun bastards by the bushel.
In essence, Patton is the perfect embodiment of the warrior in his pure form.
You know, George, you'd have made a great marshal for Napoleon if you lived in the 18th century.
But I did, Sir Harold. I did.
This is a man who lives to fight, who dreams of decisive offensive action in order to destroy the corrupt tyranny of Hitler's Nazi Germany.
We are advancing constantly, and we're not interested in holding on to anything except the enemy. We're going to hold on to him by the nose, and we're going to kick him in the ass. We're gonna kick the hell out of him all the time, and we're gonna go through him like crap through a goose.
He knows what he wants and consequently is mindful of the short window of time given to him to fulfill his purpose. His loyalty and his sense of duty are to something beyond himself, fiercely committed as he is to his country, to the virtues of chivalry, and beyond that to his creator. His disciplined but inspiring leadership fills the spiritual void and shepherds the army out of its stupor, gradually transforming it from the laughingstock of the Allied armies into a fighting force to be reckoned with.
This is where it pays off. The training and the discipline. No other outfit in the world. God, I'm proud of these men.
His troops no longer remain stationary or caution on the defensive, but are always pushed into forward motion, into daring counterattacks and dashes into the unknown.
Und sein Motto lautet immer angreifen, niemals eingraben.
Hey, this place isn't even on the map.
You know why? We've run clear off the map.
Finally, the general embodying the warrior is a person who, despite his strictness and overall detachment, respects and relates to his soldiers in the field, marching with his flock and caring deeply for those wounded in battle. At the same time, it's in his larger-than-life appearance that Patton also comes to embody the image of the Holy Fool, which is an often clownish character who may look absurd to the world, but who actually speaks the highest truths. His ivory pistols, unconventional methods and beliefs, and his prima donna attitude stand out in an increasingly complex and bureaucratic world in which the traditional warrior is the odd one out, a relic of a different time.
It's like your poetry, General. It isn't part of the 20th century.
But it is exactly in this marginal role and in his over-the-top, at times even comical appearance that Patton acts as a necessary relic, as a fool who in his intuitive wisdom will set the world straight. Therefore, it should come as no surprise that the general is shown to be equal parts sophisticated and educated, as he is crude and blasphemous.
What do you think of Morocco?
I love it, Excellency. It's a combination of the Bible and Hollywood.
I was interested to see a Bible by your bed. You actually find time to read it?
I sure do. Every goddamn day.
This is the type of general who promotes himself before official approval has been granted, who shoots at enemy bombers with his handgun in the open while his men take cover, and who orders the army priest to write up a weather prayer.
Weather prayer, sir?
At the same time, this is also the trickster who learns from those who came before, and who turns his enemy's tactics against them.
Amo, you magnificent bastard, I read your book!
But being an anachronism, the general also doesn't quite fit within this rapidly modernizing world.
Steiger, wir leben im 20. Jahrhundert.
Aber Sie müssen berücksichtigen, Herr Generaloberst, dass Patton ein Mann des 16. Jahrhunderts ist.
In essence, Patton is the ultimate romanticist who has made an idol out of the warrior, a type of modern-day Don Quixote. This is the commander who would prefer to challenge an enemy general to a duel rather than let their armies fight in order to decide the outcome of the war. But besides this otherwise honorable trait, his romantic detachment from reality unfortunately also leads him to become somewhat blinded to his excess of character. As Moore and Gillette explain, when a man becomes possessed by the warrior energy, he can come to embody its shadow side. The shadow warrior is so detached from human relationships that he leaves the door open to the demons of cruelty, destruction, and a hatred for the weak. That Patton at times becomes possessed by the shadow warrior becomes evident during his campaign in Sicily, where he pushes his men beyond reason and takes enormous risks just to beat his allied rival, the British General Montgomery, in a petty competition to be the first one to reach the city of Messina.
But I do know that you're gambling with the lives of those boys just so you can beat Montgomery into Messina.
As a consequence of his seemingly careless and obsessive leadership, his men grow increasingly resentful of him.
Colonel, there are 50,000 men on this island who'd like to shoot that son of a bitch.
But the prime example of Patton's insufficiency is played out during the army field hospital scene, where he's both shown to be highly empathetic to his wounded soldiers, but where he also reveals himself to be highly insensitive to the mental consequences of modern war, as he berates, slaps, and threatens to shoot a shell-shocked soldier.
Send him up to the front! You hear me? You goddamn coward!
This is the Shadow Warrior on full display. War is the only thing in which he finds fulfillment, and he can't help but revel in its terrible beauty.
I love it. God help me, I do love it so.
Becoming both of the Shadow Warrior and of the Holy Fool, Patton becomes his own worst enemy. His sorely needed leadership might win him and the Allies numerous important battles. His erratic nature also causes him to be relieved of command.
He relieved me from command of the 7th Army.
In a world increasingly dominated by shrewd politicians and diplomats, Patton stands out as the idealist romantic who can't stand the often disingenuous and hypocritical nature of this environment.
Hell, I know I'm a prima donna. I admit it. What I can't stand about Monty is he won't admit it.
As such, he can't help but speak the truth, no matter the consequences.
Your worst enemy is your own big mouth.
Like Don Quixote, Patton needs a sidekick, a Sancho Panza to balance out and cover his insufficiency. And he finds his partner in General Bradley, who in many ways is his opposite.
I do this job because I've been trained to do it. You do it because you love it.
Bradley is shown to be a realist, a calm and collected man who leads not on emotion but on careful calculation. This is a man who knows how to play the bureaucratic game of Allied diplomacy and is deeply sensitive to the broader political realities of the war.
Oh, now, take it easy, George. There are serious issues involved here, political issues.
But even though Bradley and some of the other commanders are seemingly more centered in their being, they are simultaneously shown to be lacking in the necessary warrior spirit.
I'm afraid there's nothing that Field Marshal Montgomery can do. At any rate, not for some weeks.
This is especially evident in the characterization of General Montgomery and a German Field Marshal Jodl, who on multiple occasions exhibit poor strategic judgment and get stuck in or fail in the actual fighting time and again.
What silly son of a bitch is in charge of this operation?
I don't know, but they ought to hang him.
Like Patton, they are insufficient. It is only when these two forces join hands, when the idealist romantic and the pragmatic realist come together, that significant successes are achieved.
With your brains and my screwy ideas, we make a wonderful team. We proved that in Sicily.
It's in this coming together that the victories in Tunisia, Normandy, and the Ardennes are accomplished. And ultimately, it's this centered energy which will bring the final triumph over Nazi Germany.
Where you going, General?
Berlin! I'm gonna personally shoot that paper-hanging son of a bitch!
But as much as this is a story ending in victory, it is also, and perhaps more so, a swan song of the warrior. Because even though Patton is shown to have played a decisive role in the defeat of Nazi Germany, this new world ultimately rejects his presence as it enters into the age of the soldier diplomat.
I have a feeling that from now on, just being a good soldier won't mean a thing. I'm afraid we're going to have to be diplomats, administrators, you name it.
In this world, there's little room for the romantic warrior of old, and so he's forced to take his leave. Like Don Quixote, this is a man caught in a foreign place and time, with no one left to fight but windmills.
Killing without heroics, nothing is glorified, nothing is reaffirmed. No heroes, no cowards, no troops, no generals. Only those who are left alive and those who are left dead. I'm glad I won't live to see it.
In the final analysis, Patton provides a nuanced exploration of a man equal part warrior and holy fool, showcasing both the excesses of the archetypal warrior as well as its necessary positive aspects, which moves man into confident forward action. Patton proposes not so much a regressive return to a dangerous idolatry of the warrior spirit, but rather a type of necessary synthesis. Lacking as the Allied armies were in the warrior energy, Patton played out the part of the holy fool, essential as he was in slapping the army back into shape and pushing it on to final victory. Similarly, our present-day world seems to be going through its own crisis of masculinity, and a holy fool warrior figure seems sorely needed. But the fool, like the romantic warrior in its pure form, needs to be leveled out and centered in order for us to avoid its excesses and ultimate self-destruction. Only then can the world potentially be flipped back on its feet. In the words of Moore and Gillette, if we are accessing the warrior in the right way, we will at the same time that we are detached, be warm, compassionate, appreciative, and generative. We will be energetic, decisive, courageous, and loyal to some greater good beyond our own personal gain. We will care for ourselves and others. We will fight good fights in order to make the world a better and more fulfilling place for everyone and everything. Our war making will be for the creation of the new, the just, and the free. Before I end this video, I forgot to mention another crucial reason as to why the American army in Tunisia was driven into inertia. You want to know why? It's because they didn't have Mubi. Instead, they were sitting around endlessly searching for a great film to watch on other streaming platforms. You want to know who did have a Mubi account? General Patton. He knew that Mubi is a one-of-a-kind streaming service which premieres a new film every single day, handpicked by their team of curators. No more indecisive evenings looking for something good to watch. Mubi takes you right into the action with a daily updated selection of great cinema. Whether it's a timeless classic, a cult favorite, or an acclaimed masterpiece, there's always something new to discover on Mubi. Best of all, with the new Mubi library, you can find, watch, and download many of their previously featured movies anytime, on any screen or device, anywhere. Right now in the US, for instance, you can check out such diverse films as Werner Herzog's latest family romance LLC, Tarkovsky's The Sacrifice, and many classics from Weimar Germany. So if you think it's time to leap into battle and also help out the channel, try Mubi for free for 30 days at mubi.com/storytellers. That's mubi.com/storytellers for a whole month of great cinema for free. Signing up, and I cannot stress this enough, really helps us to continue our work, guys, so check it out if you can. Alright, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.